The tension between the U.S. and Iran isn't just a distant geopolitical headline. It's a direct, calculated hit to our daily survival. When the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical oil choke point, is under threat, it's not just global oil prices that jump. It's the numbers on our grocery receipts tomorrow. Every single day, 20 million barrels of oil, roughly 30% of the world's total seaborne oil trade, squeeze through that narrow passage. Around 70% of that oil is destined for Asia, making it the primary artery for global manufacturing. While there are bypass pipelines, they are capped at only 4.2 million barrels per day, and for LNG, there is essentially no alternative route if that gate is slammed shut. When oil prices rise, it spreads like a virus to every corner of our lives because oil is the power of the global economy. When the price of this blood rises, the bill is handed straight to us. Let's look at the refining sector first. When global oil prices jump, gas and diesel prices at our local stations change almost instantly. Refining companies operate on thin margins, so they pass the rising costs on to us without a second of hesitation. This is the most direct hit we feel. This is exactly why a 10% spike in oil prices can drag our overall consumer price index, CPI, up by about 0.4 percentage points. But it doesn't stop at the pump. This is just the first wave. What's more terrifying is the second wave, logistics and transportation. 90% of global trade relies on trucks, ships, and airplanes. 70 to 80% of their energy costs are purely oil-based. When oil surges, shipping costs explode. These companies don't just eat the costs. They craftily melt the increased fuel expenses into product prices, effectively shifting the entire financial responsibility onto our shoulders. We see this in fuel surcharges on our delivery apps and price hikes on the shelves. The world is tied together in a massive chain, so even a slight disruption in a key choke point like the Strait of Hormuz has an unimaginable ripple effect on everything we buy, from electronics to basic clothing. Our dinner table isn't safe either. Modern agriculture is essentially the process of turning oil into food. It depends on fertilizers made from petrochemicals, machinery fuel for harvesting, and refrigerated distribution trucks, all needing oil. If oil rises 10%, food production costs go up 1 to 2%. This is an indirect effect that makes the prices for our bread, milk, and meat increase. If this repeats, it starts an inflation spiral, a vicious cycle where rising prices drive more price hikes. Central banks will aggressively raise interest rates to force-cool the economy, just like they did during the 1970s oil shocks, but that brings a new nightmare: higher mortgage payments and more expensive debt. In this brutal structure, what impact does this have on ordinary people like us? Our purchasing power weakens by the day. Living costs rise while our salaries stay frozen, meaning our real income is effectively being stolen. If gasoline hits $4 to $5, our commuting costs jump 10 to 20%. If food prices rise just 2 to 3%, our monthly grocery bills end up 10 to 20% heavier because of the compounding costs of logistics. Online shopping, delivery fees, home heating, and electricity, everything goes up at once. We find ourselves cutting back on simple joys like dining out or traveling just to keep the lights on. If prices rise another 0.5 percentage point, our savings dry up and credit card debt piles up into a mountain. Countries in Asia or Europe feel this more strongly because they import so much oil, but the middle class everywhere takes the hardest hit. The rich cope with high-yield investments, and the poor might get government help, but we are left to handle it ourselves. So how do we cope? We need to spend less, earn more, and protect our money. Let's use the actual survival tactics from the 2022 inflation crisis. First, we must cut down our food expenses first. When oil rises, we target energy and food because they're the first to be compromised. Use carpooling apps like UberShare to slash commuting costs by 20%. During 2022, many of us saved $50 to $100 monthly this way. At home, install smart plugs like TP-Link to turn off vampire electricity via an app. It's safer to secure basic foods like rice, flour, or veggies ahead of time before logistics costs push prices even higher. Use an app like Good Budget to check your expenses daily with a mindset of cutting one coffee to save $30. It's annoying at first, but it becomes a survival habit after a week. Second, we have to earn more. Our current salaries aren't enough to outrun this inflation. We have to hustle. Try weekend delivery gigs like DoorDash. You might see $15 to $25 an hour, but after factoring in gas and car wear, it's actually $10 to $20. On good days, you can make $60 to $100 in an afternoon. On bad days, it might be $5 to $8. For online work, look at Upwork or Fiverr to add $200 to $500 to your monthly income. Most importantly, upgrade your technical skills. Even in 2026, data scientist jobs are growing by 34%. Skills like SQL and Python for AI or ML are in high demand. When prices rise, companies automate everything to cut costs, so demand for people who can manage that data explodes. In 2022, tech-side gig wages rose 10 to 20% because companies were desperate for efficiency. Build a portfolio, learn to automate, and position yourself where the capital is flowing. Third, we must protect our money. Don't let your cash sit in a bank where inflation melts it away. Pay off high-interest loans first, because those rates will only go higher as the Fed fights inflation. Use apps like Wealthfront to diversify 10 to 20% of your assets into gold, solid dividend stocks, or real estate ETFs. These are the lifeboats. Set up auto savings to lock away at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses as an emergency fund. People who invested in gold during the 2022 inflation defended their wealth with 15% returns, but you must study and understand the risks before you dive in. Finally, keep your eyes on the news. Set alerts on Bloomberg or Reddit for oil updates. Share practical tips in our online groups about what to stock up on. Don't stew in anxiety alone. Talk about money with your family and friends. When we share the reality of our expenses, we find better ways to save. Historically, economies always recover after oil shocks, but the wealth gap widens every time. We just need to stay sharp, adapt our skills, and endure this cycle together until the pressure breaks. If you found these survival strategies helpful, make sure to like the video and leave a comment below about how you're handling these price hikes. It really helps our community grow. Don't forget to subscribe to After Hours Alpha and hit that notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the real economy. Let's stay sharp and protect our wealth together. See you in the next one.